welcome. Welcome, everyone. So excited to see you. Welcome to the Happy Teacher Revolution and EdCan collaboration. We're celebrating Let's Talk Day. I am so excited to be joining you today. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Dana Thomas. I'm the founder of Happy Teacher Revolution. I know you're hearing Pharrell singing in the background. This is Happy. This is our theme song today. I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy to be sharing the story of Happy Teacher Revolution. I'm so happy to be sharing the opportunities that Happy Teacher Revolution and EdCan are offering exclusive for EdCan members. Love that we already have some action happening in our chat. Please be sure to introduce yourself. Welcome, Benita Moyers from Alabama. I'm so grateful Benita's here. Hello, Lisa. Yes, she's from Alberta. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to introduce yourself. We got Brooklyn in the building. Brooklyn, New York, New York. I'm so excited to see everyone. Oh, amazing. We got folks from Ottawa and Toronto. We are global today. Toronto! Yes, Andre, amazing. My name is Dana Thomas. I'm the founder of Happy Teacher Revolution. I'm joining you today from Baltimore, Maryland. Happy Teacher Revolution is a Baltimore-born international movement, and thanks to EdCan and the EdCan network, we are going global. We're helping our members in Canada who are part of EdCan to have an exclusive opportunity I'm so excited to share more about in a little bit. But we are a global movement. We're on the mission to organize and conduct support groups for education professionals, for teachers, for student teachers, future teachers, previous teachers, administrators, school professionals, leadership, anyone who works and serves kiddos. That's who we aim to support to help increase happiness, retention, and professional sustainability. Oh, amazing. We got folks from the Czech Republic joining us. Oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. I am going to make sure that I give a shout out before I say anything else. I'd like to dedicate this presentation to this group of individuals. I've dedicated every single speech, keynote, webinar, anything to this group of heroes, and they were my first responders. And they're not first responders in the sense that we're hearing a lot about now in terms of doctors or nurses. They weren't first responders in the sense of being firefighters, but they were my first responders. They were my emotional first responders. They were my teachers. They were my heroes. They saved my life because when I was in high school and again when I was in college, I suffered from crippling anxiety and depression and panic attacks. I was feeling incredibly isolated. I was spending all of my time and energy putting up the facade that I was okay. And I was really good at faking that I was okay around my parents and around my friends, but I couldn't do it around my teachers. My teachers were the individuals who asked the question, are you okay, really? And they were the ones who provided life-saving differentiation and accommodation for me when I was in crisis. They were the ones who helped me not just get to the end of the semester or make it to graduation, but they're the reason I'm alive. Because I represented the 1 in 5 college students who had contemplated suicide. I represent the 1 in 4 Americans who grapples with a mental illness. I represented the statistic that the onset of mental illness most frequently occurs between the ages of 17 and 24. And Miss Balderson, Miss Goro, and Professor Orr and Professor Sampson are the reason I'm alive before you today, celebrating this beautiful day around mental health awareness, around Let's Talk Day. Thank you to EdCan for inviting me again to share my story. Thank you, everyone, for your willingness to listen to me share my story. It gets a little bit. I get a little bit more courageous every time in sharing and empathizing with all of you. Oh, thank you so much for your affirmations in the chat, also. But my teachers were my heroes. They're the reason that I'm alive today. I owe my life to them. They are my favorite people. Educators just are the best. And they're the reason that I decided to become a teacher myself. And for 7 years, I served as a Baltimore City public school teacher. And I have to admit, I was completely unprepared for the emotional demands of the job, specifically working with children who've experienced trauma firsthand. And we know that trauma in a child's life can range from any number of things, whether it's losing a pet or losing a parent, moving neighborhoods, moving countries, experiencing a natural disaster, witnessing an act of gun violence, witnessing an act of police brutality, surviving a global pandemic are all incidents of trauma. And as much as my teachers were looking out for me and supporting my mental health and wellness, when I became a teacher, I thought, who's going to ask me if I'm okay? What is going on here? I felt like there was a complete lack of preparedness in terms of the pedagogy and the graduate coursework that I was taking. We weren't talking about teacher mental health and well-being. There were no praxis questions around teacher mental health and well-being. At the same time that this was happening, I also was on my own healing journey. When I moved to Baltimore, I was looking for a job, a place to live, and a mental health clinician, because I knew like a diabetic has to monitor their blood sugar. I had to monitor my mental health as someone who has experienced mental illness. And I was very outspoken about my experience. It is part of my healing in terms of advocating for those who suffer in silence, for serving as a voice for the voiceless. I was the national spokeswoman for NAMI Maryland, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and the Music for Mental Health campaign. So because I was so outspoken and public about a topic that is typically wrapped in shame and stigma and secrecy, so many individuals, teachers, educators were coming out to me about things that they were struggling with, that they hadn't necessarily shared with another colleague, things around stress and overwhelm as it relates to the job. And these were educators who taught down the hall or maybe upstairs. They taught or sat across from me during professional development sessions, or maybe beside me during my graduate school coursework at Johns Hopkins. And so very quickly, I began to notice a pattern. And unfortunately, what I noticed in Baltimore wasn't unique to our community. So according to research from the University of Missouri, there's a study done on US teachers, and it was reported that 93% of teachers were experiencing these high levels of stress. And this study was done before COVID-19, before the global pandemic, right? So that means if we're talking about the number of teachers in the US, there's 3.7 million teachers in the US. That means that an estimated 3.3 million teachers could be stressed out, which means that an estimated of upwards 80 million children could be sitting in the classroom or on a Zoom call with a stressed out teacher. We know from research from the University of British Columbia, what's up, Canada? I nerded out when I met these researchers, y'all. Oh my gosh, like I was front row at a Beyonce concert, because the research coming out of the University of British Columbia started measuring these. There was a study that was done measuring the cortisol, the stress hormone we call cortisol, in saliva samples of educators and that of their students. And what they found was that teachers with higher levels of cortisol have students with correspondingly higher levels of cortisol, which means to say that stress is contagious. We also know from research of the University of Arizona, they've been able to link teacher depression to low student math scores. And on top of all this, it's an equity issue. It's a social justice issue. We know from research from the Yale Child Study Center that early childhood educators who are reporting high levels of burnout and low levels of job satisfaction are more likely to suspend and refer students of color, and more likely to suspend and refer boys more than girls at a rate of 4 times as much. So if we're not adequately supporting our educators' mental health and well-being, we are not adequately supporting our students' behavior, we're not adequately supporting student social emotional learning, we're not adequately supporting student academic achievement, and we're perpetuating the school to prison pipeline. Full stop. Lastly, it's just bad business. It's a bad investment to not invest in our teachers' mental health and well-being, because we're losing 50% of teachers in the first 5 years. This is costing the United States over $7 billion every single year in the constant turnover and recruitment of new teachers. This is expensive, and our teachers, more than ever, are considering leaving the profession. And we're going to have even more data to show you, even more infographics that were curated by EdCan that are quite literally the best in the world. I will tell you, they are the best infographics when it comes to really looking at what the data is showing us around the importance of teacher, educator, professionals, mental health, and well-being. So I wondered, how might we create the time and space for our educators to heal, deal, and be real about the social, emotional, and intellectual demands that they face on the job. And our solution was a revolution. Happy Teacher Revolution was born in the 2014-2015 school year. That was the very first time we had our very first Happy Teacher Revolution meeting. And this today is our 3-year anniversary of becoming a fish, officially incorporated as an entity. So it's really quite amazing. I was getting really choked up, honestly, and all up in my feels before going live with you today, because it's such a big deal to me that I'm able to connect with all of you right now, representing such an important cause, the most important profession, the OG influencers. Like, we're not talking Instagram influencers or YouTube influencers. Our educators are the original influencers. And to be able to connect with you today and to share this story and to see how much has happened in the last 3 years is just oh my gosh, pinch me moment. I feel like I am getting to live out my dreams every single day, advocating for the people that I believe are the most important individuals in our society, because I believe in our kiddos. The more that we can support our educators, the more we're supporting our students, right? A student's learning environment is a teacher's working environment. How are we to support our students' mental health and wellness? How are we to put it first if we're putting our teachers last? And so EdCan is here to offer you an exciting opportunity. They see this vision there and invest in this. Yes, go off, Lisa Taylor. Yes. I love it. So thank you just for showing up. Thank you for showing up, not only for this webinar, but for showing up for yourself, because when you show up for yourself, you're showing up for your students. And that's what the revolution is all about. I'm going to unpack each one of our words here. Happy Teacher Revolution. I'll start with the scariest one, which is revolution. It's an incendiary word, and it's meant to be, because the revolution is all about revolutionizing how we support our students, our children, by supporting their caregivers. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, who's taking care of the village? That's what Happy Teacher Revolution is all about. We're very much grounded and inspired by, and we're founded in the spirit of the consciousness raising groups of the civil rights movement, of the women's liberation movement, of this concept of communities organizing and coming together, of giving voice to those whose voices have been diminished, of amplifying the individuals who have been marginalized, and through that amplification, through that ability to listen and to connect and to feel heard, from there comes organizing. From there comes systemic change. The next word in Happy Teacher Revolution is teacher. By teacher, we mean anyone who serves and supports kiddos. Anyone who is in a relationship-intensive caregiver capacity with that of a child, that's a teacher. So in Happy Teacher Revolution, yes, we're talking to you teachers, but we're talking to principals, superintendents, nurses, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, social workers, our ESOL teachers, our substitute teachers, our summer school teachers, like anyone who works and supports kiddos. That's who we consider a part of our community of Happy Teacher Revolution. And the last word, happy, whoops. This is why I can never be like one of the weather people, because I'm like, there's happy Teacher Revolution. Like, I'm grinning ear to ear. My eyes are welling up tears of joy because I'm so happy to be here. But I have to be honest with you, this revolution started from a place of desperation. It started from a place of frustration, and it wasn't necessarily a happy environment from which this was born, but I believe that from every crisis, there is an opportunity. Yes, educational resource workers. Yes, and educational assistants. Yes, and our paraprofessionals too. Yes, absolutely. Woo, good. I'm glad. Yes, thank you, Kimberly. And please, yes, offer your roles. Offer how you support kiddos. Offer if you're a parent in the chat, or if you are a caregiver, or an aunt or an uncle. You know, that's every individual who is in any capacity to serve and support students. And the Happy Teacher Revolution, I'll be honest with you, when I started this, I had 39 kindergartners in my classroom in Southeast Baltimore. We didn't have heating, we didn't have air conditioning. It was a toxic building, a toxic work environment. The next question people asked is, were you all by yourself? I was at first with my 39 kiddos. And then my principal gave me a student teacher so that I wasn't the only adult in the room. And then I had to teach the student teacher how to be a teacher, and there were layers of systemic injustices in addition to the added pressures of being a teacher this day and age. And so I didn't feel supported by the administration at the time, or the typical structures of support. And so I looked to my left, I looked to my right, I looked to my fellow teachers, to all of you. And I thought, well, at least we have each other. So I started having these Happy Teacher Revolution meetings in my classroom, other people's classrooms, in yoga studios, the basement of a church, Johns Hopkins campus, anywhere I could find, any place that would have me. And then when the Education Week found out about Happy Teacher Revolution, they came to my school and they started taking photos of us having meetings. And when that article went live, that's when we went viral. Thank goodness we had just created a website for people to click on, because I couldn't believe the interest and emails and contacts I was getting from people all over the country, all over the world, saying, hey, how do I start one of these Happy Teacher things where I live? I'm not in Baltimore, but I want to start and be a part of the revolution. And so in my last and final year of teaching, on the weekends and after school, my passion project, it suddenly became a side hustle. I worked with a team of experts to train revolutionaries. These are the individuals who initiate and lead Happy Teacher Revolution meetings, to start Happy Teacher Revolution where they live and have meetings represented all over the world. And so after 7 years in the classroom, I made the leap. I thought, you know what, this is something that I believe in. And I was experiencing compassion fatigue myself. I was experiencing burnout myself. Felt like I was a case study in learning and researching about these things as it was happening to me. And I believed the Happy Teacher Revolution was a solution. So we joined the Johns Hopkins Social Innovation Lab, and in 2019, we're the winners of the Johns Hopkins Social Innovation Lab. And so in 2020 was when we did our very first webinar with EdCan, and it was so much fun that we had to come back. We had to keep bringing back the fun, bringing back the energy, and bringing more opportunities for our EdCan members in Canada to have access to Happy Teacher Revolution at a discounted rate, because we believe that our teachers, y'all need to be getting paid more. All the education professionals, okay, should be making as much or more than our professional athletes. Am I right? But until then, we're going to try and give you as many discounted opportunities and as many chances to be a part of this community and to invest in yourself and to invest in your students and each other. But I do want to make sure that we talk about what this means in light of the pandemic. Now, there was the pandemic of teacher stress before the pandemic of COVID-19. There was the pandemic of social injustices before the pandemic of COVID-19. But I think it's important that we do ground ourselves in the data around Happy Teacher Revolution and the data around the importance of prioritizing our teachers' mental health and well-being. So the first slide I'm going to show you, we're going to start in the US, and then we're going to move our way to Canada with our fabulous data and infographics that I was mentioning previously. But I want to talk about some data from our US school districts. This is from 160 participating school districts in terms of the concerns over teacher well-being. So teachers, we've used the acronyms BC to represent before COVID and AC as after COVID. And before COVID, 58% of educators describe their mental health as not good for at least 7 of the last 30 days, last month. 78% of educators said that they felt mentally and physically exhausted at the end of the workday. And these numbers have gone up. And again, I would bargain to say that this percentage would probably be even higher if this data was collected even more recently, because as we're seeing, our teachers are experiencing an extended amount of frustration and burnout and overwhelm, right? Like, this is compounded effects. And in terms of the strategies, the action steps to help address and support our teachers' mental health and well-being, oftentimes it runs the gambit. Okay, so it goes from haphazard, sort of the one-off like article, try some self-care, and here's all the other things that are due by tomorrow close of business, right? What? That's mixed messaging. Or it's on the other end, the employee assistance programs. Which can oftentimes, they are expensive and they're underutilized, or there's different like parameters within the EAP program. So the sweet spot is what Happy Teacher Revolution aims to address, is an ongoing SEL support for staff. Ongoing trauma-informed practices for staff, to hold space, to foster, when we talk about our CASTLE competencies, to foster social awareness. self-awareness, relationship skills, right? This is what many school districts, hope to aspire to, but there haven't been systematic efforts really before now to help support our teachers' well-being. Oh, thank you for sharing that Canadian research from Canadian Teachers Federation. Thank you. So let's go. Perfect segue into our next slide to talk about what this looks like in terms of K-12 teacher, staff, and stress burnout from some of the research that's coming out of British Columbia here. So we're seeing that there's, in terms of the teacher effects, higher stress. There's struggles in terms of work-life balance. So 58% of our teachers are stressed all the time versus 36% for the overall Canadian workforce. So when we think about, for the individuals who have a stressful profession, that in our roles, we are working with students. I believe the best SEL curriculum for a child is the grown-up, is the adult, is that staff or that caregiver modeling those social emotional learning competencies. And if our caregivers are stressed out, they're not going to be able to model those competencies to the best of their effectiveness. I also want to point out, yes, okay, Lisa, yes. So we're gonna share all of that with you. We're also gonna drop a link for folks to get involved, where you can access the platform where we do have all of the articles and references and things. And also all of this data that I'm talking about right now is also available on the EdCan website too, because I think this is so powerful to have. And it's what's amazing is, shout out to Andre who made these. He's broken them up into different slides, but what's really great is it's a one-pager, y'all. It's a one-pager with all of this number, with the references on the back. Hello. I have been sending this to administrators left and right. I've been sending the Canadian data to admin everywhere. It doesn't matter if they're in Canada or not, because I am obsessed with how it's been parsed out. So yes, thank you for dropping the link. Amazing. And yes, this is being recorded. Yes, so you can watch it and share it and send it to your friends and replay different sound bites. If you want to take pictures and tag us, please do and share, because we want to spread the message and spread the movement, especially if they're EdCan members too, so that they can check this out. So I want to bring everyone's attention to the disproportionate impact, because I think this is specifically very important. So 51% of Ontario Black educators believe anti-Black bias affects who gets promoted, and 33% of the LGBTQ2 plus Canadian teachers have been warned to not come out. So what's incredibly important is Happy Teacher Revolution's curriculum and our training is grounded in the RIF scale of well-being, one of which the principles is, and the first one that we've been diving into in our mentors program, is autonomy. The idea of being your authentic self, of choosing and being autonomous. And it's important to note that burnout, the pandemic of teacher burnout, is affecting all of our teachers, but there is a disproportionate impact that's impacting our teachers of color, that's impacting our LGBTQ2 plus teacher population, as well as our special educators are burning out at an even higher rate. I also want to bring your attention to right here. The effects of COVID-19, 500% increase. Okay, when I was practicing and going over and doing and I live alone, so I like to rehearse and practice for webinars in front of my fish, Woodrow Gilson, and every time I came to this slide, I couldn't believe it. When else do you see these type of statistics? 500% increase. That is something that we're going to evaluate the ripple effects of COVID-19 for years and years and years to come, right? 1 in 3 teachers in Nova Scotia currently are thinking about retiring or changing professions. Teachers are retiring in droves earlier than ever before. This is a crisis. We have to do something to support our teachers' mental health and well-being. Because again, it's bad business. It's just a bad ROI, return on investment, right? It doesn't make sense, the amount of money that's being spent on substitute teachers, on sick days, right? There's disability claims for folks who are going out, and honestly, and this is a vulnerability moment. I can speak for myself here. I used to wear my sick days like a badge of honor. I never took a sick day my first 6 years of teaching. I thought, I got all these sick days in the bank. Look at me. I've never taken a sick day. And what happened? It led to burnout. It led to compassion fatigue. I took more sick days in my 7th and last year in the classroom than all 6 years combined. And not only was that expensive at any time I called out, it was frustrating to my colleagues, and that only perpetuated the feelings of isolation. So, this is something to consider just in terms of the benefits of investing in our workforce. We also know that when teacher burnout increases, that student stress increases, that when teacher burnout increases, teacher quality decreases, and it's incredibly expensive, again, to continually recruit and train new teachers in a revolving door of folks. And we're not seeing the same individuals who are graduating from schools of education or who are interested in education. And so, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about this problem? Well, the answer is the revolution. Join Happy Teacher Revolution and the EdCan network. We have a special opportunity for folks who are part of EdCan. This is something that we hope that you consider investing in, not only for yourself and your families and your loved ones, but for your students and those that you support. I want to talk about my top 3 tips for Bell Let's Talk Day. I want to talk about my top 3 tips for folks, and to also amplify the voices of the individuals who've been a part of the Happy Teacher Revolution movement. I know that Benita Moyers is here in the chat because she is popping off in the chat, but thank you, Benita, for being here, and thank you for all that you do for Happy Teacher Revolution. I met Benita in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago, and I met her. I was invited to be the keynote speaker for a group of individuals who had just won Teacher of the Year for the National Education Association in the US. And Benita had flown in from Alabama, and she came up to me after the presentation with tears in her eyes, and she said, I felt like an imposter getting on the airplane to receive this award. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, what? She said, I felt like an imposter because I was ready to leave. I was ready to walk out. I was ready to stop teaching. And this is someone who is a superstar educator, like had just won Teacher of the Year and was considering leaving the profession. She said, but now I know I'm here today so that I can start this revolution thing. Sign me up. Where can I go? Is there anybody in Alabama? I said, nobody in Alabama. She said, all right, well, let me start. She didn't just start Happy Teacher Revolution in her school. She didn't just start Happy Teacher Revolution in her school district. She launched Happy Teacher Revolution across the entire state of Alabama. And she is still teaching. She is still, she's the virtual teacher. There's all of these things that she's still doing and advocating for. And I think it's really important that because I left the classroom in 2018 to work on Happy Teacher Revolution full time, it's wild to think how much has changed in terms of the demands that are placed on educators and what's put on their plates and what's heaped on top of each other over and over and over again. And so I think it's so important that we amplify the voices of the folks who are still doing the work. So Benitas Advice, craft a self-care plan. So just like you intentionally lesson plan and curate and design your lessons and unit plan and action plan and backwards plan, consider your self-care plan. So scheduling time for yourself. I'm old school, so I don't like to do the Google Calendar thing. I have my planner book and I actually plan out time with myself. I actually plan out, for example, I've never done this before. I celebrated my half birthday and I had a half birthday self-care night for myself. And it wasn't even a whole day. It was just on a Friday evening. And I did things that I really enjoy. So I prioritized, and this is what Benita also recommends, do more of what you love. And so I love to cook. I love to make a recipe that my grandmother used to make. And it's just very comforting and nourishing for me. Again, this self-care plan, it's not a one size fits all. I wish I could say go to this link, print this out, and all your dreams will come true. You'll be happy forever. Some easy thing no, unfortunately, it's work, it's practice. Self-care is hard work, but it's work that it's intentional, and it's work that is the most worthwhile work because it's the work on yourself. It's the self-work. So another practice around this is establishing boundaries, setting those limits and tracking your goals. So whether it's setting a boundary around that container of time, like here's my 30 minutes a week that is for me, and I'm going to prioritize it just like I have to prioritize getting in those grading deadlines and sending that email. Prioritize you and set up those boundaries. Be mindful, though, that there might be some pushback on the boundary setting, but what a great opportunity for you to practice and for you to hold. Some of those people who might be frustrated with your boundaries, there might be people who are upset with you because you're saying no or setting those boundaries, but consider that they might have been those people that were taking advantage of your lack of boundaries to begin with. Another thing to do is to set and track your goals. So just like our students have like their sticker charts and their different ways to track their progress, consider a way to track your progress too. I'm a visual person, and so that's one thing that I've been doing is keeping tally marks around my self-care goals or coloring in the square on my calendar every time that I meet my goals. So I have been trying to have a more consistent morning practice of meditation and journaling and having an evening practice of gentle stretching and yoga. And so it's been helpful for me to recognize the times that I've put in the work to show up and practice that consistency and to track those goals. And to not be as hard on myself if I miss one. Like yesterday, I didn't meditate in the morning, but I did my meditation in the evening. And so that's something that has helped me just offer a little more grace for myself. Do more of what you love. I'm going to be showing you something that I love to do for self-care in a little bit. A little surprise for those of you who were at the last webinar. And it's another opportunity for me to share something that I really love with all of you. And finally, focus on relationships that matter. So right now, I'm so grateful for the relationships that you are curating with the folks in your life, be they students or parents or caregivers, and also the relationships that we're connecting and grounding ourselves in right now. We're in a group right now on this webinar, and the folks who are watching this later and the folks who are watching live are going to share with their friends to watch later. We're all here because we're here in a community. We're here in relationship with one another in this collective virtual space because we believe that the mental health of our educators matters. We believe that happy teachers matter. We believe that this is something that is not only good for us, but it's good for our students. And that support network is something that's really special that's come out of Happy Teacher Revolution. And Benita started Happy Teacher Revolution in her school. And these folks, they didn't get trained to start meetings. They attended Benita's meeting, and just from going to the Happy Teacher meeting, they had the opportunity to connect with one another. And so I just wanted to share the voices of folks who have been a part of Happy Teacher Revolution and what this could look like if you want to start this in your school. All right, so can you just tell me a little bit about yourselves and what you do and why you believe in Happy Teacher Revolution?
Sure. I'm Reagan Crane, and I'm a speech language pathologist, and I believe in Happy Teacher because I was the only staff member who does what I do in my building, so I kind of felt like an island, and I had nobody to go to talk about anything I was going through or the struggles I was facing, and just felt really alone. And the stresses of work were just building, and I'd go home and dump it on my family, and they didn't understand, so they couldn't really help or really talk to me about what I was going through, and I couldn't share most of what I was feeling because it was confidential. And so I just felt like everything had to stay bottled up. And when Happy Teacher meetings came along, I was able to share with other educators how I was feeling and realize that, hey, other people have similar experiences, and just know that I was in a safe environment where I could let those feelings out and then leave feeling less burdened by them. So it's been really awesome to learn the strategies too about self-care and gratitude, and just leaving work at work, and I can tell a huge difference in how I felt since then.
I hope everyone could hear that, and there wasn't any echoing or anything. So the next tip that I would love to share with all of you, and thank you, Benita, and thank you for all the folks who attended Benita's meetings for your willingness to share and invite folks to listen and hear your experiences, expertise, and being a part of the Happy Teacher Revolution community. So the next piece I want to talk about, and for Bell Let's Talk Day to celebrate mental health awareness, is let's talk about language. So surviving versus thriving. Now, when Happy Teacher Revolution first started, I told you that today is our 3-year anniversary. We're 3 years old. When we first started, we were very data-driven and focused around measuring burnout, compassion fatigue, toxic stress. Oh, thank you, Megan. Oh, thank you so much. And we were very much focused on burnout, compassion fatigue, toxic stress. We were using the Maslow Burnout Inventory, the Professional Quality of Life Survey, the Teacher Stress Index. And while all of those things were important to demonstrate, yes, teachers are burnt out, we've proved it with science. Let's talk about, okay, now what? Like, but what about the teachers who aren't burnt out? Like, what about a situation and environment where teachers aren't just surviving and putting out the fires, but feel like they're thriving in the work that they're doing? And so what's really exciting, especially with the timing with the EdCan collaboration and offering this opportunity for folks in the EdCan network, is that we are grounded in the RIF scale of well-being. So we are now measuring and have ongoing curriculum and development in our mentors program around the 6 pillars of well-being. So those are autonomy, environmental mastery, purpose in life, positive relationships with others, personal growth, and self-acceptance. And so I'm really excited just about what that looks like, not only from the teacher level of becoming a revolutionary and launching meetings like Benita and her community that you just heard from, but also what this looks like at a school level. And so I want to share a little bit about what this Happy Teacher Revolution movement has looked like as a trauma-informed practice. So one of our first school sites that launched Happy Teacher Revolution school-wide was in Nashville, Tennessee, and Nashville Metro, and this was Fall Hamilton Elementary. So their principal came to me after the first year that he was there as as a trauma-informed pilot site, and he said, "I have to be honest with you, Deanna, I completely neglected." He said, "My first year as the principal, I was so focused on student trauma-informed practices. We were 100% student focused." And he said, "As a result, I'll be totally honest, I completely neglected my staff. I completely neglected the piece around vicarious trauma. What can I do to help support our educators who might be grappling with vicarious or secondhand trauma? What can I do for my educators who work with students who have a high ACE score, so that adverse childhood experiences?" This is just the demographic numbers of Fall Hamilton in Nashville. And again, this is from a couple of years ago from when we first launched in Nashville. And I want to share just the voice and perspective of a principal who believes in the Happy Teacher Revolution movement. I think this might be a little bit nerve-wracking for folks who are tuning in today, who are in a leadership position. But what is so important is that from the Happy Teacher Revolution movement, I've realized that we need a happy administrator revolution just as much as we need a happy teacher revolution. Our administrators are feeling stressed and overwhelmed and anxious, and then we need a happy superintendent revolution because our leadership is feeling stressed and overwhelmed and anxious. So it's really important that we consider that this healing doesn't just happen in isolation.
All right, tell us about Happy Teacher Revolution and why you're a Happy Teacher Revolution school.
Yeah, so I'm Matthew Portell of Fall Hamilton in Nashville, Tennessee, and we've been a Happy Teacher Revolution school for 2 years, and it has been remarkable. And I think it's a process in which teachers need the affirmation, the connecting to the choices, understanding that we can't pour from an empty cup, and teachers need to have that voice and self-care and connection to each other through vulnerability to build the support they need. And so in 2 years, I've seen my staff grow as a community and as a connected group of adults around the process. And I think that any administrator who wants to move their staff to the next level, it's just a process that must happen. You've got to allow teachers to be able to express and connect to the choices, validate themselves and others, and really believe in the culture of the teacher and the school in order to move to wherever you want to be. So it has worked for us.
All right. So just to wrap this up, the EdCan and Happy Teacher Revolution collaboration is all about reimagining what support looks like in education for our Canadian educators, what it looks like to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health. We're so excited to launch and make this big announcement on Bell Let's Talk Day. It was no accident. This is a very auspicious day, and it's a full moon, okay? It's the first full moon of 2021, so this is huge, and it's our 3-year anniversary of the Happy Teacher Revolution. So I'm really excited to foster community with all of you, to be in community with all of you, and to consider what it looks like to reduce these feelings of isolation and to foster authentic human connection. And finally, to offer an opportunity for leadership. You know, not everyone is ready to step up to the plate when it comes to advocating for our mental health and advocating for our well-being. This is an entrepreneurial venture. You know, this is a new frontier. It's a relatively new field. There isn't anything that is quite like this ever before. And that's why EdCan, I believe, is a revolutionary organization that's offering revolutionary opportunities for their members. And on the Happy Teacher Revolution end of things, we're very grassroots. We are built and supported and run by teachers for teachers. This is something that very much is grounded in joy and also grounded in change and transformation. And so that brings me to the last tip and final one of our webinar together. Let's talk about you as an instrument of change. You are all individuals who have the capacity to make a change, but it starts with us, right? It starts with making that choice for ourselves. One of the things that we use in our Happy Teacher Revolution meetings is called the 12 choices. They're based off of Vicki Davis's 12 choices to step back from burnout. And they include things like, I choose to disconnect and detach with love. I choose to prioritize the relationships that matter. No matter how the school year started, I choose to finish well. And you can find those resources. Again, the link is in the chat if you want to connect and find out more about how to be a part of this community and be a part of the revolution. And so as we wrap up today, this is one of my favorite books ever when it comes to talking about burnout and compassion fatigue for caregiver professionals. It's called The Resilient Practitioner. How does the opera singer take care of the voice, the baseball pitcher the arm, the woodcutter the axe, the photographer the eyes, the ballerina the legs and feet, the practitioner in a helping, caring, relationship intense profession, the self? So one of my self-care strategies, and something I really love to do, is to play the saxophone. And I brought the saxophone out for our last webinar, and I just had to do it again. And it's because I really, I want to model what this looks like in practice of integrating work-life integration rather than a work-life balance in terms of integrating my self-care into presentations. I've been playing the saxophone since the 4th grade because of Lisa Simpson. And when I'm getting ready to play my saxophone, I have to make sure that my reed is not too dry and that my keys aren't sticky, and that my mouthpiece is, screwed on correctly and nothing is chipped or broken so that I can play my instrument. I gotta have my hat on too for the saxophone. Let's see if my instrument works. I'm a little bit rusty. Thanks for letting me play, but I have a question for you. What instrument do you have to take care of before the gig? What is your instrument? Woo! It's this. It's this. It's this. You got to take care of your instrument. If there's one thing you learned from the Bell Let's Talk Day EdCan and Happy Teacher Revolution webinar, it's to take care of your instrument. You are an instrument of change. Repeat after me. I am an instrument of change. And that wraps up our webinar today. I want to share with you my last spark of joy. Yes, Sarah, go up. She is an instrument of change. The last individuals I want to share with you as my instruments of change to inspire me to keep going are my students. I am so excited to share their joy with all of you, and thank you for being a part of the Happy Teacher Revolution and EdCan webinar.
Teacher Revolution is a Baltimore-born international movement with a mission to organize and conduct support groups for teachers in the field of mental health and wellness to increase teacher happiness, retention, and professional sustainability. My name's Dana, and I'm a proud survivor of mental illness. When I was in high school and college, my teachers were my heroes who saved my life. And now I've started a revolution, a happy teacher revolution. We're not a therapy group because I'm not a doctor, and my only expertise is my experience. And we're not AA because you are allowed to drink afterwards, but we're something different. We're a social support network of educators coming together to connect, to empathize, to listen, and to feel heard. If you're interested in starting a meeting in your community and joining the revolution, check out happyteacherrevolution.com.
All right. So here's that link again. We're going to do a quick Q&A. So if you have any questions or anything you're curious about, or just if it's not a question, I would ask my kindergartners for questions and they just raise their hand and give some statements. Or even if it's a statement, that's okay too. But I'm really grateful for everyone for tuning in and for watching. I hope you like the music video. Right. Yeah, so we did get some questions earlier. This is going to be recorded, so please make sure that you share the link with folks who you think might enjoy it, especially if they're EdCan members. If they're not, then that's okay too. They can sign up to be EdCan members, but the discount's really awesome. We're offering a 20% discount. We don't do this on the Happy Teacher Revolution end of things. So this is a discount we're only offering exclusively for EdCan members. So this is something that you want to be a part of. This is a great, great opportunity to do so. And, you know, it's something that I think is really special on a global perspective is knowing that we are coming together as a community to rally around supporting the mental health and well-being of ourselves, of each other. You know, we're all on the same team because we're all on Team Kiddos, right? This is for our students. Self-care is professional development. It's not selfish. Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. Oh, thank you. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Thanks. I get so nervous before I present, y'all. I get so nervous. So that makes me feel really grateful that you enjoyed it. And thank you for your willingness to hear my story and my journey. It's something that, you know, I still struggle with. And it's hard because sometimes I wonder, if I have a bad day, I'm like, is this just a bad day? Or is this, oh my gosh, the depression rearing its ugly head again? And so I've been trying to do a better job, like integrating self-care and well-being into my life and lifestyle. I found a new therapist, so I'm hoping that works out, you know, so that's something too, to know that, like, if it doesn't work at first, don't give up, keep trying, no matter what the self-care strategy is. And I look forward to folks, you know, connecting with us. Thank you again, Benita, for sharing. Oh, Lisa, thank you so much. Revolution for Better Business. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. So, so if anyone has any questions, I just want to say thank you for believing in this. It's such a roller coaster ride. Like, there's times when I just doubt if this is something that other people think is worthwhile. And it turns out it's so affirming to present to all of you, to hear from all of you, to hear your stories and affirmation that, you know, this is something that is still needed, that is still important. My goal at the end of this, honestly, I want Happy Teacher Revolution to be obsolete. I want, put us out of business. Let's get everybody happy so Happy Teacher Revolution doesn't even have to exist anymore. So thank you all so much. I am so grateful for everyone who has tuned in. Be sure to check out the link that Benita has dropped. And I just want to say thank you to EdCan. Thank you to the team and everyone behind the scenes who made this possible. For all of the folks who are a part of the EdCan network, thank you for being a part of a community that is legendary, that is revolutionary when it comes to supporting our teachers in Canada and beyond. So honestly, like, they're the real heroes. Thank you for taking a chance on a teacher from Baltimore. Thank you for taking a chance on a revolution that started by teachers. Thank you for investing in a teacher-driven and teacher-led initiative, because it's something like, this isn't some big company somewhere, you know, like, this is very much a grassroots community. And so it means a lot to me to know that we have garnered international attention and international support for our teachers and for each other. Oh, thank you so much, Kimberly. Oh, wow, these chat. Oh, thank you so much. And thank you also, I would be remiss not to acknowledge Johns Hopkins and the Johns Hopkins Social Innovation Lab. Thank you to Johns Hopkins University for also supporting Happy Teacher Revolution. You helped make this possible so that I could be here with EdCan today. So I'm so grateful for everyone who has been a part of this movement. So thank you so much. And thank you again to EdCan. And happy Let's Talk Day. So my homework assignment for you is to talk about the importance of mental health and well-being at some point today to someone in your life, because it is important that we talk about it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me share. I'm so, so grateful for everyone who is able to tune in today. And thank you, EdCan. So be sure to check out the link that's pinned at the top. If you haven't done so already, just pull it up, bookmark it on your phone. Be sure to follow us, tag us, and we'll be in touch. Thank you all so much.